Hey, Michelle. Thank you so much for including your work. Okay, let me go ahead and see. So I'm seeing some things here, and a fork for a brush. I get that. I think we looked at those sketches, and that's a perfectly viable option, most definitely, right? But let me go ahead and tell you what I'm seeing because I think there's a couple of points in confusion. Before I do that, I'd like to reiterate and agree with what a couple of your classmates mentioned in that it's very difficult to ascertain where you want us to start and in what direction should we go. Presumably it's clockwise, right? And presumably this is where we're going to start. But maybe you could maybe delineate that by making this circle a little bigger than the others, just to add a little bit of emphasis on that area by creating a contrast in scale and allowing the viewer to know that that is indeed different than the others, indicating that that is the point where you enter the narrative. The narrative. Okay, the other thing I think is a little confusing is the fact that all of these arrows are all pointing to the final outcome. And I'm not sure that's good because you're drawing connections between this and this. Now there are connections, but not enough that you want to draw the eye in that direction, okay? Because every one of these arrows is going to act like a magnet in the composition, and it's going to pull the eye towards the middle. Every single one of these bubbles that has an arrow, the viewer has no choice but to follow that arrow into this, and that's where we're kind of losing a little bit of meaning. So, okay, I look at my watch, and then I'm going to look at this girl with the nice brushed hair. Okay, then we come over here, we look at the surprise look, and do you see what I'm saying? So I would recommend that you don't have all those arrows pointing to the center. I think there's enough emphasis on the center that we know that that is something that's different than the others, and I think therefore we would be able to identify that as the final frame in the composition. Okay, let me tell you how I'm reading this, all right? Because there is some points of confusion based on what I'm seeing, and I want you to think about this because I don't want this to happen to the final presentation, okay? But here's what I'm seeing, okay? So looking at her watch, and she's a little frightened because she's obviously running late. So she's really hauling butt to where she needs to get. By the time she gets there, she's exhausted, and it looks like her hair is pretty messy. So she gets to, and then we find out she's going to a restaurant, right? This is where I get lost. Like, she's got this big smile on her face, and then, I mean, is it because she's on time? I'm not real sure exactly what that is. At any rate, this again and this are both confusing. These 1, 2, 3, 4 frames are confusing because so I am not following what happens after she presumably gets to the restaurant. She's happy. Then is this, I can't tell if she's looking in a mirror or if she's at the restaurant checking in and the person is saying, wow, your hair is a mess. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not specifically clear. It almost looks like she's looking in a mirror. So this is confusing. She's pristine on this side, but this side is kind of got a frightened look on her face. So I'm guessing that that is the person that's checking her into the restaurant, or maybe her friend at the restaurant saying, your hair's a mess, what are we going to do? Then they get, this is where I think that you should show the aha moment, okay? So if that is her friend, and her friend says, okay, so what, they both are like this, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, right? And then all of a sudden one of them picks up a fork off the table, and there's the aha moment, right? So then she takes the fork and goes into the ladies' room and brushes her hair. Then she comes out, sits back at the table, looking all beautiful. Okay, that's the way I'm seeing it. I'm not sure if that's how it's intended, but I think it's really difficult to see what's going on through here. It's not that the sketches are bad, it's just it's difficult to tell. So why is she happy after we see the restaurant scene? Is it because she got to the restaurant on time? Who is this person that she's looking at that's so frightened? And what is this exchange right here? Okay, then we need the aha moment where, like, oh, let's use a fork to brush your hair. You know what I'm saying? So those, I think those are the things that need to be addressed. And again, I think at this point I'm looking at this and I'm just a little bit confused. I think the narrative is just a little confusing in some areas. Can you respond to me and let me know if I got it right or what is actually happening? I think if I know exactly the story step by step, I can help you to decipher and maybe discover a very clear way to present that information. Okay, I think it's really interesting that you've assembled the sketches around the final scene, as it were, and that's very, very interesting. I think that in a lot of ways we have, and you've watched some of the other videos, right? And I keep on saying we need to draw connections between the way this works. So what are we going to use? Are we going to use a fork in between each one? Forks, or what are we going to use? Maybe footprints from her running? It's hard to say, but in this particular case, the way this is assembled, I mean, I think just by simply increasing the first frame is going to allow us, and then the rest is automatic. Once we realize where to enter, it's automatic because we're used to going clockwise and we're used to entering compositions in the upper left. You see what I'm saying? And if that was your intent, good job, because that's showing some wonderful foresight. So anyways, those are my recommendations. And I would, if you could just shoot me a quick response to this critique and just let me know what's going on right through here. And then maybe we can decipher a way to address that in maybe a more concise way. All right, great job. Any questions at all, let me know. But let me know about that, okay? Thanks very much.